All right, welcome to Hoops Tonight here at The Volume. Happy Friday, everybody. Hope all of you guys have had a great week so far. Going to get into the two games from last night. Took the night off last night, just hung out with my wife, got to relax for a little bit before we get back into the grind. Going to hit just Celtics Cavs in this video just for time's sake. As soon as I'm done recording this, I'm going to turn around and record or start watching Mavs Thunder and do the analysis for it. But this one had taken me a little while. I wanted to get it out before I started covering the next game. So just hitting Cavs Celtics in this game is in this video as the Cavs tied the series, dominating the Celtics after falling down to an early 9-point deficit, pretty much blowing them out the rest of the way. And now we're headed back to Cleveland with the series tied at 1. You guys know the drill. Before we get started, subscribe to the brand new YouTube channel so you don't miss any more of our videos. Follow me on Twitter at _JasonLT so you guys don't miss show announcements. Don't forget about our podcast feed wherever you get your podcasts under Hoops Tonight. And then keep dropping mailbag questions in those YouTube comments so we can keep hitting them throughout the rest of the postseason. So let's talk some basketball. Tell me if you've heard this before. Boston had a cold jump shooting night. And then their offense completely fell apart because they don't really have another way to consistently score unless they're making jump shots. So they lost. Boston got 0.73 points per jump shot in the game. Obviously really bad. They did shoot well when they were open. They were 5 for 12 on wide open threes. That's 42%. Cleveland just did a good job of chasing them off the line and contesting jumpers and playing them into their worst tendencies. They took 21 pull-up jump shots in the game, only made 5 of them. That was 0.57 points per shot. A lot of the same stuff that you're accustomed to seeing from Boston. As we talked about all season, their success pretty much is determined by jump shot variance on a night in, night out basis. They were 27th in points in the paint per game in the regular season. That is dead last among the remaining playoff teams in this field. I was kind of doing some digging through the data, and just go into NBA.com, go to the little miscellaneous tab and click and sort all the playoff teams by points in the paint. And you will see there's a pretty solid connection between the teams that are remaining in this field and the teams that have been eliminated. And most of the teams that are remaining are high in the upper echelon in points in the paint among playoff teams. It's been just a consistent theme, especially in this super physical playoff environment. It's just harder to make jump shots when teams are allowed to foul more and the games are just more physical, more intense. And Boston has tied a lot of their success to those results, and they just don't have a counter when shots aren't falling, other than to just take more of them and hope they go in. Now, the upside is real. I want to be clear. Their 1.13 points per jump shot was their efficiency with those in the regular season. That was number 1 in the NBA, right? So they are the best jump shooting team in the NBA. They just lean into it so heavily that the variance can be a problem. They can get hot too, and they can blow you out in a matter of minutes. And like, no matter who they play, if they win this series and they continue to move on, even if they end up in a series where they lose at some point in the future, again, let's say they lose to Minnesota, wouldn't be surprised if there's 2 or 3 games in that series where Boston just gets super insanely hot from 3 and wins. That's always a big part of their upside. It just also has a downside that comes with it. And again, these are teams that they're way better than. Like, they're way more talented than Cleveland, and they are there's a chasm in talent difference between them and that Miami Heat team. And even in those matchups, the variance can be an issue. We're going to get more into Boston and just kind of their brand of basketball later on. But again, that was the primary, kind of variance in this game. Boston couldn't make a jump shot, couldn't score outside of that. And Cleveland, just kind of leaned into that momentum. Got a bunch of big shot-making nights from some key guys. We'll go into that here in just a minute. So the flow of the game, Celtics got out to an early 9-point lead. Cavs started to chip away in the late first quarter. Big thing I was noticing on film, Caris LeVert and Evan Mobley were really picking on Sam Hauser and Luke Kornet. Now, the Hauser-Kornet lineups throughout the postseason up until last night were mostly good defensively. And I do think that those guys do their jobs. But it's less about, like, how good they are at within the game plan of doing their jobs, and more about do stars feel comfortable against them. And the reality is even though Hauser slides his feet and he gets good contests, like when Caris LeVert saw him, he felt comfortable dribbling against him. When Donovan Mitchell saw him, he felt comfortable dribbling against him. It was a different level of comfort and ability to get to their spots than it was when they'd face a Derek White or a Tatum or a Brown or a Drew Holiday. So like that, the Cavs were just going way out of their way to attack those two in action in that late first quarter run. It immediately stood out to me, and it became a trend later on in the game, which we'll get to. As we talked about, the Celtics started missing shots. They were hitting early. Al Horford did a couple threes. They were hitting early when they went up 14-5. But the Cavs go on a big run, riding that 2-man game with LeVert and Mobley, who, by the way, had his best game scoring in as a role man of this postseason. We'll get more into that in a minute. But the Cavs go on a big run. They go up 30-21. Then the Celtics come back in. Their main guys come back in, and they reassert control. We basically go into halftime tied. But in that early third quarter, Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland catch a little heater. They make 5 threes in the first 7 minutes. They build that first little bit of margin. Obviously, Boston's still missing. The Garland threes in particular felt huge because he didn't do much scoring elsewhere in the game. Cavs go up by 11 points. Then we go into that late third quarter stretch, and exactly like what happened at the end of the first quarter, in comes Cornette and Hauser. The Cavs go right back to attacking them. And a big part of that was Donovan Mitchell did not come out of the game. He stayed in the game during that portion, and he was going right at Sam Hauser. He ended up drawing a foul on a three-point shot against Derek White. He had a pull-up three in Sam Hauser's face. He had that bomb that buzzer beater, like step back three that he hit on Jayson Tatum to send it into the fourth quarter. And then early in the fourth quarter, he hit that banking shot kind of coming off of that screening action towards the top of the key that he made. And then the game was basically over. They were up by 16 with 9 minutes left, and it was over. And they went on to blow it open from there. But really, it came down to a critical hot streak from Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell in the early third quarter. Some really good matchup attacking from Caris LeVert in that late first quarter against that Hauser-Cornette duo. And then Mitchell kind of stepping into that. LeVert as well, but Mitchell stepping into that in the second half. And then as long as Boston wasn't able to kind of keep up with them with their three-point shooting, they kind of lost control of the rope and the game was over. I can't say enough about Donovan Mitchell. He's been the best player in this series so far. That's going to be the biggest thing that that Cavs fans are going to be leaning on for optimism. Like Jayson Tatum, we're going to get to him in more detail in a minute, just not having a good playoffs. He's playing limited competition, just not having a good playoffs. And Donovan Mitchell has been one of the best players in the league in this postseason run and consistently has just had his foot down on the gas, doing everything he can to generate offense for a team that has struggled to generate offense in this postseason run. He just smelled blood in the water in that second half, and he went after it and got a big win for the Cavs on the road. I don't even know. I think we all kind of have to reevaluate Donovan Mitchell as a playoff player after this playoff run because he's shown a resiliency against really heavy defensive coverages that has been super, super impressive. Evan Mobley, playoff career high, 21 points. Great on the roll against Sam Hauser. He scored 6 points on the roll in this game. That was the most he's had in a game in this postseason run. Hit a three at the top of the key in that first quarter run that kind of helped them spark. And most importantly, he was incredible defensively. I'm going to show you guys some examples when we get to the film. But he does a really good job when he has to leave his man to help of being super active with his hands to get deflections. And again, when you double team and you don't get a deflection and you allow an easy kick out pass, that's when you end up in the problematic 4-on-3s. When you're actually really active with your hands and you can either one, force a turnover, or two, get a deflection that slows down the pass, that gives your team a better chance to rotate on the back end. It's one of the most important parts of help and recover defense is you've got to pressure the ball and make those kick out passes difficult. Mobley was just unbelievable in this game. Darius Garland, like I said, that little three-point shooting run he had early in the third quarter, vital to the Cavs getting this one. And then Caris LeVert, just, he's one of those guys that he kind of has a little bit of that like DeJounte Murray, like high hesitation ability to beat people off the dribble and get to spots closer towards the rim. Has that good chemistry with Mobley in the ball screen, hit a couple of big mid-range pull-up jump shots as well. Big-time game from Caris LeVert. Moving on to Boston, they got smacked. They got outscored 113-80 after going up 14-5. That's getting 30-pieced on your home floor by a team that in terms of the talent differential, you should have swept. So this is obviously an ugly look. Now, is Boston going to lose the series? I don't think so. Cleveland might go home and kind of ride the energy and the belief that they have from this game, and they might get another one. But I think Boston's going to win this series in 5 or 6 games. But it's just a bizarre brand of basketball. Their shot selection is flat out dumb. Al Horford, 90 seconds into the game, takes like a trailing 25-footer off the move. Hadn't made a shot yet. Just decided I'm shooting this drifting, quick stop and pop three in transition early in the shot clock. Made absolutely no sense. There's a random possession in the first half where Jaylen Brown just early in the shot clock shoots a contested step back three at the top of the key. There's a random Drew Holiday post up where he takes a left shoulder fade along the baseline early in the shot clock. Jayson Tatum settling for super difficult pull-up jump shots in ISO, even though he continues to not be able to make them at a high clip. Then every time he gets into traffic, instead of going up and taking basketball shots, he just sticks his arm out and just throw them up like that and throws some bizarre shot up at the rim that has a small chance of going in. It is unbelievably bizarre. And like, there's no real hierarchy. You know how in Cleveland, it's like we're running everything through Donovan Mitchell? Tatum doesn't have that luxury. If he misses one or two shots, they just go in a different direction. And another guy goes, it's my turn now. Like Donovan Mitchell, he misses one or two shots in a row. He's just going to go down and take the third one until he gets into a rhythm. There's a clear hierarchy and order of operations offensively for Cleveland and really for most teams in the league. For Boston, it's like, it's just vibes, man. It's just do whatever the hell you want on the offensive end of the floor. And most importantly, they are not consistently engaged on the defensive end. They have a great defensive fastball. They do, but they don't throw it until they feel some sort of desperation or like if they drop a game. But it's not programmed into their basketball character. Derek White is really the only guy I see that like on a night in and night out basis really brings it on the defensive end of the floor. And like that's a fundamental difference between what they were under Ime Udoka. Like under Ime Udoka, they were way less dependent on three-point shooting. They were 9th in three-point attempts per game that year. They were taking about 2.5 fewer threes per game in the postseason. They were 17th in points in the paint. This team is 27th in points in the paint. So substantially higher percentage of their offense in the paint, substantially lower percentage of their offense from the three-point line, much better balance in that 2022 season. But by far, the biggest difference, Ime Udoka baked into them a toughness and a commitment to the defensive end that they just have not had since then. That 2022 team, when they beat Brooklyn, that was one of the best defensive efforts I've seen from a playoff team in this era. That is a ceiling that they just have not been able to get to. And yes, I get it. They don't have Kristaps Porzingis right now, and they don't have the Robert Williams kind of rim protection they had in that season. But even on the perimeter, Tatum and Brown, all those guys were so much more engaged consistently on the perimeter defensively. That team, like literally, if you gave me this roster with the identity of that team, better balance in their shot selection, a more clear hierarchy running through Jayson Tatum, and a much better commitment to the defensive end of the floor, I think they would be guaranteed to win the title. They have the most talent. I would feel so much more confident in their abilities to do this if that was the breakdown of their basketball approach. But that's not it. There's no hierarchy. They lean heavily into spamming three-point shots and difficult pull-up jump shots, and they defend when they feel like it. And you know, the crazy thing is they might just win the damn championship anyway, because that's how talented they are. I actually think they match up pretty well with Minnesota, certainly better than the Western Conference teams, because they have so much shooting that they can space them out and kind of mitigate some of the size advantages that Minnesota brings to the table. They also have so much ball handling that if you're pressuring the hell out of the basketball with Jaden McDaniels and Anthony Edwards, and even with your centers, you can just find one of your guards to bring the ball up the floor against a Mike Conley. Or one of the Jays is going to have to be guarded by a Karl Anthony Towns. You can bring the ball up the floor against him. Like Boston has real advantages because they have incredible personnel. And they very well might hoist the Larry O'Brien trophy in June playing this garbage-ass brand of basketball. It's crazy. Like a lot of people think I hate the Celtics because I am a Lakers fan, but I'm not really a Lakers fan. I root for the Lakers because I'm a LeBron James fan. I have nothing against the Celtics. I really liked that 2022 Boston Celtics team. This specific brand of basketball under Joe Mazzulla is so unlikable to me. And it's just, every time I'm watching them, I just am completely blown away at the complete lack of regard for the value of every possession on either end of the floor. And if there's anything to be said about the talent advantage, it is a curse in the sense that I think, especially in that Eastern Conference where it's so weak, especially after you get past the top few teams, that you could win 60, 65 games with this roster while playing an iffy brand of basketball. Like, I believe if Boston played in the West, they probably would have more commitment to the defensive end of the floor and a little bit more value on each possession. But they've been allowed to kind of play this brand because of that weak schedule out East. And like, again, it just might not even matter. They might just win the damn thing anyway. But like, I can just say personally, as someone who has covered this team all year, like every time I watch them play, I'm like, what are we doing here? Like, what I'm watching game one, and it's like Jayson Tatum is the best player on the team, right? And a top 10 player in the NBA. And he's basically standing around watching Jaylen Brown go to work. And like, I get it. Like, all of these guys are capable. Derek White is capable of running the offense for an entire game. So is Tatum. So is Jaylen Brown. Drew Holiday is capable of doing it as a secondary shot creator. But it would make way more sense to bake this down into a simpler hierarchy and have guys play smaller roles. It's so equal opportunity. It's so just based on vibes that everyone kind of feels the leeway to hijack a possession. And when everyone has the leeway to hijack a possession, nobody's in rhythm. And that's probably the last thing I'm going to say about this, and then we'll move on to the film. Like, when you have hierarchy, it is much easier to stay in a rhythm. When everyone can hijack a possession, there is no consistency in where you're getting your touches, what you're doing with your touches, where you're getting your off-ball catches, what you're doing with your off-ball catches. There's no consistency there. And so no one can really get into a groove when each game just fundamentally looks different. When you watch Cleveland, they play the same damn way every game on offense. Here comes Donovan Mitchell. He's going to run 25 pick and rolls tonight. You know, like Darius Garland's going to be aggressive when Mitchell's off the floor, and when Mitchell's tired, they'll run some through Garland. But you know what you're getting. Okay, Karis LeVert came into the game. He's going to spam ball screens. Like, you understand a very clear hierarchy with Cleveland and with Denver and with Minnesota and with all of these guys that Boston just doesn't have. Every Boston game looks different. And when it cooks, it cooks. Like, when there's an upside to that too. I want to be clear. When you play equal opportunity, there is an upside where, like, when all the pieces kind of click in simultaneously, it's like, holy shit, all five guys are in rhythm. Now they can't guard us, and we just put up 142 points, right? But the flip side is sometimes none of the pieces fit, and then it just completely falls apart. And like, I'm not concerned about Boston. I feel the exact same way about them that I did before the postseason. Like, am I going to pick if Minnesota or Denver gets out of the West and lines up with Boston? I will probably pick them over Boston, simply because they have such a clear basketball identity that they're more likely to reach their ceiling than Boston is consistently. That said, I would still give Boston a very good chance to win that series against both of them, and I wouldn't be the least bit surprised. I absolutely think this team can hoist the trophy. But even in that context, it feels like they're underachieving on a night in and night out basis. It feels like they're leaving meat on the bone with this bizarre ass brand of basketball. The NBA playoffs are heating up, and so is the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. With same-game parlays, live betting, odds boosts, and so much more, don't miss out as the NBA postseason winds down. So, lots of great odds for the second round. If you still think the Nuggets are going to come back and beat the Timberwolves, you can get them right now at plus 105. Thunder Mavs starts here shortly. And if you like the Mavs to win that series, you can get them at minus 105. And if you're new to DraftKings, you got to check this out. New customers bet $5 to get 150 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code HOOPS. That's HOOPS. That's code HOOPS for new customers to get 150 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. All right, let's get into the film. I've got 17 clips for you guys from this game. So let's look into this first possession, which is this bizarre shot from Al Horford. So as you guys can see, 4-2, 10-31. Horford I don't even think Horford's taking a shot at this point. I think Tatum drew a foul on a post up. And then I think there was a baseline cut, if I remember correctly. But here we go. Look at this. 4-2, 10:26 left, 20 on the shot clock. And we're going to get literally a Horford transition pull-up three. Like that is a shot that I just do not understand why it's in your repertoire offensively, unless it's like Al just made two wide open catch and shoot threes, and now he's in rhythm. Let's keep feeding the hot hand. That would be the one time that shot makes sense. It certainly doesn't make any sense in this situation. This next clip is an example of something that I talked about a lot after game one. Cleveland offensively was doing a lot of bringing up whoever Horford or Cornette was guarding, even if it wasn't Mobley. And in this case, Horford, this is the base matchup set for Boston. So they'll put Tatum on Mobley and they'll put Horford on Okoro. But you can just do this to get a baked-in driving lane. And all it is they're going to chase over the top. So Garland can get it downhill a little bit. And then he knows both guys are going to be following him, which is going to leave Isaac Okoro wide open for the catch and shoot three. Now, obviously, if you're Boston, you live with that, but that's an example of Cleveland kind of using that to get baked in dribble penetration in the coverage. Here's that dig down ball pressure stuff I was talking about with Evan Mobley. So watch. As Mobley comes down, Tatum's open. But Mobley, all he has to do is, as he's doubling, make it really difficult for Derek White to make that pass. And he does. He gets in, look at the active hands, and gets the deflection and knocks it away. Again, Mobley did an incredible job in this game when he was helping out of area of just making that kick out pass almost impossible with his length and activity with his hands. Alrighty. Here's an example of Jayson Tatum just settling for a bad pull-up jump shot. So here we go. 15 seconds on the shot clock. Horford's going to clear out of the top of the key here and leave really big driving lanes. So there's tons of space for Tatum to go to work. And again, like I said, Tatum briefly got hot on pull-up jump shots. Late December, early January. Briefly got hot. Post All-Star break, he was 0.94 points per pull-up jump shot. Coming into game one, he was of this series, he was 0.95, I think. So like he's not efficient on the shot, and he's still leaning on it in big doses. Here he takes a early clock pull-up three that he leaves short off the front of the rim. Here's that random possession that Jrue Holiday hijacks. So again, it's 20 seconds on the shot clock, 19-4. Doesn't have an advantage. He's on Max Strus. That's the bigger, stronger guard of the three guards that Cleveland plays. And he's just going to go right down and take this like really tough left shoulder fade along the baseline. I just don't understand that shot. That's vibes. That's just free flowing offense. That's everyone's got the green light, which just doesn't make sense to me. Here's an example of really good Celtics offense. So we're going to come over here to Tatum here on the left wing. Okay, we ran action, kicked out, got to the second side. Now we're running action again. There's going to be a screen here. He rejects the screen. He's going to drive left, draw a second defender, make the kick out pass to Jrue Holiday, extra pass to Derek White here on the wing, knock down three. Like when they run good offense, if they were diligent about doing this and just ran things through Tatum and White every single time down the floor and used Jaylen Brown more as like a guy who could attack in bench units and primarily focus on attacking closeouts. If they did that, set up a clear hierarchy, got really diligent about running action every time down the floor, that would give them a more consistent ability to reach their ceiling. Again, I put this in my notes. If they were more diligent about doing this sort of thing on every possession, I'd be convinced they win the title. Here's that late first quarter stretch. Now we're getting LeVert and Mobley attacking Cornette and Hauser. So basic pick and roll drop coverage, chasing over the top. Pump fake to engage the rim protector, and then the pass out. This is really smart play from Caris LeVert. Notice the pump fake is what gets Cornette to commit, and that it creates the easy dunk. Exact same thing. Let's fast forward a little bit. Same thing. We got LeVert and Mobley against Cornette and Hauser. Step back jumper, back cut, dunk. How about we do it a third time? LeVert gets Cornette. Just drives right past him. Layup. They were attacking those two basically every single time they were on the floor. I put this in my notes too. I should have said this in the monologue, but I missed it. But the Celtics had a 142 defensive rating in this game when Hauser and Cornette were on the floor together. Here's another great deflection from Mobley in help. So again, watch as he gets up, he's in help now. But so there's a kick back pass to Derek White here. Max Strus is coming down to kind of drive Xavier Tillman out of the lane. Just watch the activity of Mobley's hands, shutting off that window. Again, you can double team with impunity if you've got the length to disrupt the pass. Here is the random Jaylen Brown step back three. So 18 on the shot clock, 46-41, middle second quarter, and Tatum's just like, screw it, I'm taking a step back three. Leaves it short on the rim. Then they don't get back in transition. Remember, transition responsibilities. Ball, rim. Always ball, rim. Here's new ball, right? But no one's back to get the rim. And Strus just beats him on a baseline drive reverse layup. So again, it's not just the lack of the poor shot selection. It's also the lack of commitment on the defensive end. This is what I was talking about earlier with Jayson Tatum just sticking his arms out. So like this should be, he's got the angle right here. So from here with 2 seconds left, it's so easy. It's a simple gather and high floater. Just literally gather floater. But instead, Tatum takes this janky ass, let me just stick my arms out and try to draw the foul shot, which is not a real basketball shot, and he ends up missing it. I think he'd be so much higher percentage on these if he was more willing to take real basketball shots. Tatum's been good at the restricted area in the postseason, but he's been really bad in this area, the paint outside the restricted area. Here's that third quarter stretch where Mitchell started attacking Kornet and Hauser. Let's fast forward a little bit here. Tatum's actually on the ball, but they're going at Hauser and ball screen here. Or does it get worked back out? Yeah, it gets worked back out. Okay, we get a guard screen. We get a switch. And now Mitchell's going at Hauser, drives on him easily downhill, draws a foul, gets in the lane, and one. So again, this is a deliberate, from right here, this is a deliberate action. Okay, we've run our first action. Let's get to a second action. Derek White, obviously. Derek White, I just, every time I watch the Celtics, it's like Derek White's running around with his hair. Well, if he had hair, he'd be running around with his hair on fire. But he's running around like crazy on defense, trying to make plays while everyone else is not quite given that level of effort. But this is a deliberate attempt through a guard screen to go at Sam Hauser. Here's another one, exact same thing. Although it starts with another kind of janky ass like Tatum weird low gap. Like, why is he bringing the ball so far down? Like, what is he doing here? Why is he like swooping the ball like that? Like, this is all a grift attempt. I just don't get it. I just don't get it. Everything about that shot is an attempt to get to the foul line, not an attempt to make a basketball shot. But we go down the other way, and we're going to get an attack of Hauser again. LeVert and Kornet, or LeVert and Thompson versus Hauser and Kornet. We get a ball screen, a little pull-up jumper in the mid-range. Nice little piece of shot making from Caris LeVert. And then the exact same thing again. This time on just a straight ISO of Hauser. Bucket. And again, like it's easy to look at this and go, oh, good contest. But it's less about that and more about the fact, like watch Mitchell's body language as soon as he gets off of this. So right here, he comes off and he's like, okay, I've got Hauser. He's going to clear off look at him immediately relax. See that relaxation? You can literally see it in his body language. As he's coming off, he's like, oh, I got Hauser. I'm cool. He just feels comfortable dribbling. He's like, there's not going to be ball pressure. Yeah, he'll get a contest, but I'm a professional scorer. I'm good at shooting over a contest. He's too comfortable operating with the basketball. There's no disruption of the rhythm. There's no disruption of the footwork. This is just him working against the cone, basically. That's exactly what his drill looks like in the summertime when he's working on his pull-up jump shot. Again, 142 defensive rating with Hauser and Kornet on the floor last night. And then let's tie it off with just a ridiculous piece of shot making against a ridiculous piece of defense from Jayson Tatum. This is really good defense. Notice Tatum is actually getting up and pressuring the ball. So like this is what really good perimeter defenders do. Pressuring the ball, getting his hands, disrupting that dribble pocket, making Donovan Mitchell use the off arm, gets in again, reaches in again to disrupt. This is just a superstar shot. Great contest. See the difference in that perimeter defense than what Sam Hauser was doing? And again, Sam Hauser's doing his job in the game plan. He's not athletically capable of doing what Tatum just did there. But that just goes to show you the difference between making a ball handler uncomfortable versus making a ball handler comfortable. Also, I'm a big believer that those are connected. Mitchell's in full rhythm. I think he had already hit 4 threes in the third quarter. So like, and he got fouled on a 3-point shot by Derek White, made 3 free throws. So like he was in full rhythm. So that shot feels more comfortable for him than it otherwise might have. Fast forward here. This one, I believe, is an ISO of Jaylen Brown. Yeah. So here on the left wing, boom, right, left, slalom, floater, beautiful piece of shot making from Donovan Mitchell. Again, he's been the best player in this series so far. So yeah, hopefully that stuff on the film kind of gives you guys a better example of some of the things I was talking about in terms of Boston's shot selection, also the way that they were attacking the Cornet-Hauser duo in two-man game. Again, I don't think this series is going to tilt heavily towards Cleveland's way. I think Boston has a crazy defensive punch that they're going to throw in game 3. I wouldn't be surprised if they won convincingly. Again, I give Cleveland a good chance to get one in Cleveland just simply because winning this game gives you a certain amount of belief, and the crowd will have a certain energy that might not have been there if you were down 0-2 coming home. And so I do think Cleveland has a chance to get one at home, but I still think Boston's going to win this series in 5 or 6 games. All right, guys, that's all I have for this particular video. I'll be back in a few hours with Mavs Thunder. I will see you guys then.